So let's get started and start off with arguably the biggest post-college football story of the season, which is a college football quarterback that could be headed back to the NCAA. A bit of a surprise. Trinidad Chambliss looks like he's going to play at Mississippi for yet another season. He was granted an extra year of eligibility by a state court judge who issued an injunction that paves the way for Chambliss to be eligible in 2026. Now, the NCAA has not yet weighed in on this, and they certainly could petition this to force Chambliss to attempt to go into the upcoming NFL draft. But as of now, it does at least look like from Chambliss's perspective, he'd like to return to Oxford and get paid some more NIL money and chase a national championship yet again. Meanwhile, National Football League saw Stefon Diggs at wide receiver in the Super Bowl. Now you see him in court. He pled not guilty today to felony strangulation and other criminal charges stemming from an alleged dispute with his personal chef. Also, the National Football League announced that they will have a Wednesday game to open up the 2026 season with 49ers Rams in Australia that could be played Wednesday or Thursday, just simply depending on the time zone. Whichever game that does not take place, the Seattle Seahawks home opener will be on. Get ready for an action-packed NFL season, but folks, we're still months away from that. The National Basketball Association appropriately has fined the Utah Jazz and Indiana Pacers for what they're saying is integrity. We call it tanking around here. The NBA said that the Jazz got to pay up $500,000 and Indiana Pacers $100,000, saying that both teams sat healthy players in recent games and saying that kind of integrity won't be tolerated. Meanwhile, the Jazz did it again the other night, so I don't know if they're going to be getting another fine too. So the competition committee, the board of governors, all involved in this. Never seen anything like this happen in the NBA before, where players are being sat at the fourth quarter of games, but it certainly has happened, and now you got to pay fines on that. We'll see what happens in the future. Big shocker in the NBA last night. Second time this week, a double-digit favorite ended up losing outright, and this time it was the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Bucks win the game 110-93 without Giannis. AJ Green from Milwaukee had 17 points on 5 of 3 from three-point range. Also, Jalen Williams didn't play in the game, in addition to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oklahoma City, 42 wins at the All-Star break. Mark Daigneault saying that basically just didn't have enough in the tank to win that one.
Mark, what made getting into the paint, in the deep paint, a challenge tonight, and where did you feel like maybe you guys had some opportunities that you weren't able to capitalize on?
Yeah, we weren't able to really get any offensive rhythm tonight for whatever reason. I thought there were a lot of possessions we were not very organized, which set you back at the beginning of the possession. Milwaukee did a great job. Obviously, they outplayed us the whole night, but obviously just wasn't our best night. But I thought our process let us down on a lot of plays. I mean, to take advantage of break, you don't get a break like this. The last time we had this kind of sustained break was before the season. And the next time you get this type of sustained break is after the season. So you got to just fill your tank however you need to do that. The guys have been around, most of them, so they understand what they need to do individually to get themselves mentally, physically, emotionally recharged for the stretch run. So we trust them to handle their business in a way that best positions us as we come out of the break. But that's all.
The oldest player in the history of the NBA to record a triple-double is now officially LeBron James. 41 years old, 44 days. In the Lakers win over the Mavericks, LeBron had 28 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds. Final score, Lakers 124, Mavericks 104. LeBron, after the game, more concerned with his team winning, naturally, than hosting that triple.
LeBron, a great team win. You set the tone early, and you finished with your 123rd career triple-double. When you hear that number, what do you feel?
The win. That's the most important, and to be able to do it and get the win that's what means more to me than anything. But been very blessed to play this game, play it at a high level, and was able to do it again tonight. I think that was my only mindset, was how can we go into the break on a high note, and obviously, that team is, even though what. No matter who's out on the floor for them, they're well coached and they're gonna play hard, and they did that for the majority of the game tonight. But just try to set the tone, and in the first half of the season on a high note.
Yeah, Najee was playing at a high level. Gap was, he was helping us on both ends, and so for those two to go out, next man up. Unfortunately, those two couldn't come back.
Jason, you're on the short list of people who played in this league at 40. What's it like for you to see LeBron, putting up a triple-double at 41?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I think stat might be wrong, but he is leading the league in fast break points, I think. And so, understanding he's playing the game at a high level at the age of 41 to put up a triple-double is really amazing. And it just shows, for someone who's taking care of his body and mind up to this point is playing the game the right way and at a high level.
Meanwhile, the Utah Jazz paying up $500,000 and then losing last night to the Portland Trailblazers. Final score in that one, 135-119. Drew Holiday, the story in this one, 31 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. He spoke after the game about posting up and getting a win when they need it before the break.
I think just being consistent, being persistent, keep on fighting. We know that it's a game of runs, and we'd had a big run early, and then they came back with a big run and got it within 3. So we felt like the momentum would change, and locked in Svi. Svi came in and then had a big fourth, which I think nobody really expected, but just came in locked in and then took care of it down at the end of the stretch.
And you personally had a big night offensively. What were you seeing from their defense that you were able to take advantage of?
Making shots. I think I was trying to make shots, make plays, get into the paint, trying not to turn the ball over, which is the biggest thing. I think if we take care of the ball better, we definitely put ourselves in the best position to win.
A hard-fought game. The game got away from us in the third quarter, mostly because of fouling. They shot 16 free throws in the quarter. When that happens, it's also hard to get into a rhythm offensively because you're playing against a set defense for most of the time. So I thought besides that piece of the game, I would have liked to see us be a little bit more physical with our switches. But I thought overall, the guys played as a group. We moved the ball. It was just one of those nights where when it slipped away from us a little bit in the third quarter, we couldn't quite regain control. We made a nice run in the fourth and just couldn't quite get over the hump.
All right, let's get to some college hoops from last night. Should be a very popular weekend in college basketball with no NBA, no Major League Baseball yet, and no NFL, of course, for the first time since September. North Texas defeats Memphis. It's been a disappointing season for the Tigers. Memphis was 1.5-point favorites. North Texas wins the game 76-69. Jashawn Stevenson had 16 points. He made 5 of 5 3-pointers. And as I said, Memphis' season supremely disappointing. 12-12 under Penny Hardaway again this season. All right, number 10, Michigan State, 1.5-point favorites tonight. That's the big showdown in the Big Ten. They will take on Wisconsin this evening. And the team that is left undefeated in college basketball, like we all expected, not really. Miami, Ohio, ranked 23rd in the country. They are 9-point favorites tonight against Ohio. Also, one smaller trade in Major League Baseball. Jesus Sanchez, outfielder of the Houston Astros, was traded to the Toronto Blue Jays for Joey LaPerfido. You may not have heard of either of those players, but that's what we're here to do, is inform you. LaPerfido used to play previously for Houston, so now he is back there again. Welcome back to Newswire here on SportsGrid. Great to end our week with Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. I would highly encourage all of you interested in learning more about what prediction markets are and how they operate and what the future may hold by going to LegalSportsReport.com, where Sam, one of the primary writers there and columnists, and dives in each and every week with content here on our show, but also online as well. All right, Sam, I feel like I had to do that once every few weeks to catch people up with
appreciate it, Craig.
Here and I mean, you never know. Somebody could. I always say, doing television, and I said this in radio, you never know when somebody is watching or listening for the first time, or there's people out there right now that are wondering the same thing. So here we go. All right, so top story of the day with us: Fair Markets and Sports Integrity Act has been introduced, and so I know what they would like to do, but I'll let you tell us, and if you think that what they're asking to do is reasonable within what their parameters are.
Yeah, it's this new federal bill from Congressman Dina Titus, who is a Democrat in Nevada. Nevada prediction markets, the issue has been especially important to them. They were the first state to launch one of these lawsuits against prediction markets, which pretty much, as every state has alleged, is that they are using a loophole to offer sports betting under the guise of financial derivatives regulated by the CFTC. So basically, they don't have to pay sports betting taxes, comply with state sports betting laws. They're in 50 states as opposed to the 39 that have legalized sports. Could go on and on about what the argument with prediction markets is. This is a new federal bill, so a bill Congress would be weighing theoretically that would clarify that these markets cannot offer any markets on an athletic event, or another interesting wrinkle, casino-style games, which so far I haven't seen Kalshi or Polymarket or any of these others move into basically online gaming, but would be under the guise of kind of federal derivatives law. Now, that we always talk about that with the end game for sports betting, right? That sports books want people to become sports bettors and then eventually get states to pass online casino. So that could be the end game with prediction markets as well. I think we don't really know what the end game is entirely, but the big kind of aspect of this being an important newsworthy item is that it's a bill in Congress, which has so far not done anything with prediction markets. They have had hearings where they interviewed the new chair for the CFTC, Michael Seelig, who recently said that he's going to issue rules that clarify that prediction markets can exist, they can offer sports, and kind of signaled they would fight against some of the states and almost the 10 court battles we have now. So be interesting to see if this picks up any steam in Congress. Obviously, Titus has been very opposed to them because she's from Nevada. She takes a lot of money from the sports books and casinos in Nevada who have been very against prediction markets. I think it's worth noting that the BetMGMs of the world, the Caesars of the world, the kind of the sports betting apps that have legacy casinos, they've not gotten into prediction markets yet, while DraftKings and FanDuel and those have. So there's a bit of a split there where, you know, Vegas and the casinos want their interests represented as well. I know Senator Richard Blumenthal has said he's working on similar legislation. It would amend the Commodities Exchange Act, which is kind of the whole, the crux of the debate of, did that act intend for these to exist? Did it not? So we'll see if it picks up any steam in Congress. Would be surprised if this ultimately becomes a law, but you never know what can happen. It's kind of the first iteration of it. And it signals that, you know, maybe the federal government is finally trying to weigh in on this issue, which has so far largely been left up to the states. There's about 10 state lawsuits playing out, and we've speculated that eventually the Supreme Court is going to have to decide. But if Congress does in fact pass a law that clarifies before that, that could change things up a bit.
Let's check in on the state of Michigan. And Michigan is a state that has a lot of sports betting going on, of course, very popular with Detroit and some of the other major cities that have professional sports teams, college sports teams as well. Looks like another team in their area, or excuse me, another state in their area, Illinois, who imposed a bigger sports tax. Seems like they could be following suit, Sam. Do they have a chance of just basically mimicking exactly what Illinois did last year?
Yeah, there's definitely a chance, especially when the proposal comes from the governor of the state, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, proposing to do pretty much exactly what Illinois did this past year, which was, hey, we have a sports betting tax rate, but let's generate more money from this industry by keeping that rate the same and then adding a 25-cent per bet fee onto every bet. So basically a 25-cent tax that every operator has to pay on their first 20 million bets. And then after that, let's up the fee to 50 cents per bet. So or operators in Illinois have been really upset about that. They've been having to pay a lot more money to the state, and the way they've handled that was passing the cost down to the customers. There's now a per bet fee surcharge in Illinois, which we've seen implemented, and reports kind of signal that betting may be a little bit down in Illinois since that was implemented. Not at a huge rate where, you know, the industry, everything is moving offshore like everyone was threatening, but there are some signs there that betting behavior has changed a little bit with that being passed down to the customer. The Michigan proposal, you know, one of the reasons that the Illinois tax was such a big deal wasn't because it was an isolated incident in Illinois. It's because you can have other states neighboring, like you mentioned, Craig, now look to Illinois and say, hey, they were able to do it. Why don't we do the same thing? Why are we letting sports books not pay the same that they do here? Michigan has historically had a pretty easy tax rate for sports books, about 8%. So this would make it not so easy. They would also change the online gaming tax from about 24% to 36%. And it comes as the state is facing a budget shortfall from a gap in federal funding. You had pandemic relief, you had Medicaid relief from the federal government, which is now kind of falling off. And I wouldn't be surprised as more governors look to their budgets when they, you know, start the negotiation process this year. They say, hey, we have a big gap in federal funding. What's an easy way we can raise taxes without, you know, nobody likes to raise taxes, but how can we do it without pissing off most of our constituents? Online gaming companies, sports books are always an easy target, especially when you have other states like Illinois, they were able to do it successfully. So they can, the governor's probably thinking, why don't we just do that here? See if we can raise the money. Now, it'll definitely face pushback from the sports books themselves, but you have to wonder how much sway they're having in legislatures these days when, these things are passing so easily. Of course, prediction markets won't be paying this rate, but, that's another story entirely. So we'll follow along what happens in Michigan, but wouldn't be surprised if this was the last state considering a sports betting tax increase this year.
Sam, we hit on Alaska. Now let's hit on Hawaii, 2 states that do not have legalized sports betting, but arguably the smallest in the country, and obviously in different places in the country as well. But very passionate fans of sports, maybe more so in Hawaii, honestly, than in Alaska because of all the West Coast sports that are going on out there, major college out there as well. Is there a chance that the island gets sports betting legalized this year?
Yeah, I think Hawaii, I would add, is interesting in this conversation as well because I think like the Hawaii teams always play late on the college sports slate. So a lot of times, people who are up betting on, certain sports are betting on Hawaiian teams, and they're not. The state isn't really seeing any of that money. But this year, will it be legalized? I would say probably not. There is a bill being considered. It was actually just passed out of committee, but with a very interesting amendment. The amendment clarified the effective date of sports betting in Hawaii would be the year 3000, which popular Jonas Brothers song, but also used as kind of a measure in this case to delay things out and push things out for an indefinite amount of time. It's probably the maximum they could do in the bill. And the reason lawmakers say they're doing that is because they want to continue the conversation of sports betting. They want it to be something that's talked about in the legislature. They want to get to a place where they're figuring out how to regulate it, but they're also very wary of sending dollars out of state. They have been for a long time introducing a FanDuel, DraftKings into the state. They're wary that getting more people to bet in the state could create problems here, and then the companies that benefit from that are out of state. Additionally, Hawaii has no gaming at all, really. They're right in line with Utah, so this would be a big change. They wouldn't be going from a state that regulates gaming to a state with sports betting. They'd have to create a whole commission to do this kind of thing. They don't have much experience with it. So this year, will it get legalized? Probably not when you talk about the amendment that pushes it out till 3000, but it does mean the conversation will continue. The governor is on board if responsible gaming protections get added in there. So I wouldn't say completely no, but it's not looking great. Maybe someday for Hawaii.
Great to catch up, Sam. As always, I'll be out Monday. I know that Adam Kaufman will be in for me. I hope you guys have a great conversation. I'll see you back here next Wednesday. Thanks for coming on Newswire.
Sounds good. Enjoy the time off, Craig. Thanks.